Okay, everyone, welcome back to this week's episode of Just Jossin. We are doing a special Halloween episode. So I'm one of your hosts, Sabrina, and I am prom queen today.
And I'm Jasmine Heron. I'm your other host, and I am a beautiful, gorgeous, all-powerful unicorn. Because if you are gonna be your costume, I'm gonna be a unicorn.
Oh, and here's Oliver the cat, and he is a piece of toast.
Oh, he's a little burnt loaf. Are you a loaf?
He is not happy.
Those eyes.
Can you hear him growling? He's like, yes, I know.
I did not dress up corgis today because they would not approve. Lily actually enjoys wearing costumes, but she would not enjoy like being part of the show and then having to be quiet for the rest of the show.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was trying to find, so somewhere I have for the tuxedo cats a tuxedo bow tie, and I was looking for that and I couldn't find it, which went perfectly well with me not being able to find any of my stuff either, because I've cosplayed before as Kaylee from Firefly, and I thought, perfect, Just Jossin, I'll do that. Checked my attic, checked my closet, checked my trunks, can't find it. No idea where it is. The only I was able to find all of like my Kaylee accessories, like the bag, and I even have a stuffed Serenity. Can't find the actual outfit. I couldn't find my Meg costume from Hercules, couldn't find my Hermione outfit, nothing. So prom queen it was.
All of my costumes live in the exact same location. And my deal with my partner is that if they ever start to overflow that location, I need to get rid of some. So I have to be very careful. However, the onesie, the unicorn onesie, just lives in my regular pajama drawer. So I didn't have to go looking for costumes. I was just like, yeah, unicorn onesie, butterfly fairy glasses. We got this covered.
So what I must have done is taken all of my cosplay stuff and just put it in a new location. I just don't remember where that location is.
It's the spell of banishment. You take an item that you never want to see again, and you say, I need to put this somewhere sensible. And you put it somewhere sensible, and then you never see it again.
Like, I have a feeling, like, there has to be a trunk that is just filled to the brim, basically, with costumes and wigs and such. Because, this actually wasn't in there because I did go, we have, themed, well, before quarantine, before COVID, we had themed dance parties, and one of my friends is a DJ, so I would go, and one of them was prom, like an adult prom, so that's what this is from. And this thankfully had not made it into the box. I don't know what I would have done otherwise.
Well, I think you look gorgeous, a beautiful prom queen. So should we get into this episode?
Yes. So we are doing season 2, the Halloween episode, hence Halloween costumes.
Now, last week we had said we were going to be doing 3 episodes at a time, and if you have followed us up to this far, you realize that Sabrina and I can talk forever about how Joss Whedon's works. And that's a problem if you actually want to be listening or watching these videos. So we realized that since you probably don't want 2 hours to listen every single week, we're going to cut this down to just 1 episode for the holiday episodes, or specific holiday episodes. We might do just 1 episode at a time, and otherwise we'll try to keep it around 2 episode blocks.
Yes. And once we get into where Angel and Buffy overlap, we'll figure that out. It might be a Buffy episode and an Angel episode each week. And Angel is meeting up with Buffy at the Bronze.
But Buffy's not there. Buffy
Mhm.
is at Pop's pumpkin patch.
Yes.
And she is fighting with a vampire while another vampire is filming the entire interaction from the bushes.
Mhm.
With
On a VCR recorder, like one of those big things
one of
that
the old camcorders, and
mhm.
he's got low battery. You'd think if you were heading out that evening to go stalk the Slayer, you would make sure your battery was charged.
You would think, but again, most vampires are not as technologically savvy as Spike.
Mm-hmm.
And indeed, that's who has sent this vampire out.
Yep. And so, Angel's awkwardly waiting, and Cordelia swoops on in, and she's, flirting and being charming, but also kind of being her usual self-centered self. And Buffy walks in and sees them talking and tries to do an about face, but Angel sees her
Mhm.
and he stops her. But she's having major self-esteem issues, and she bails.
Being very sulky teenager.
Mm-hmm.
Very sulky teenager. Um, and so, I mean, this is not the first time that we've seen Cordelia do this little trick.
Mm-hmm.
Owen is the best example, really, like prior to, of Cordelia just trying to like swoop on in and take Buffy's date.
Yep.
And at this point, Cordelia has no idea that Angel is a vampire yet. Not until a little, well, she doesn't know. She's told later on, but she thinks that Buffy and Will are just screwing with her.
Mm-hmm. And so then we get to the next scene where Snyder is volunteering people to take kids out trick-or-treating. And his way of getting people to volunteer is to show up like with the pen and things saying, "You're volunteering."
Yeah, this is something I've never heard of or seen anywhere else where they force high school students to take children out trick-or-treating. Like,
Uh-huh.
if I were a parent, I would not want some random teenager taking my child out.
Yep.
That's just me. This was also the 90s, so
Yeah, I mean, maybe the parents in California want to go out and party on Halloween night, so they're going to foist their kids off on anybody who'll take them.
maybe. And I mean,
Except it starts at 4 and ends at 6.
mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very short party.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the one thing that I noticed in the scene, I think right after that, is where Xander goes up to the soda machine and is trying to get a soda, and I got so excited just seeing that stupid machine because it reminded me of like my childhood. It's like, I remember those.
Yup. And you push the button, and you had to hope that yours was lit up with a little red dot saying what they had available or not. And
Yep. Yeah. And it would come out in that can, which has now been nicely shaken up on the way down.
Yep. So this is the scene where we learn for the first time, they introduce to the mythos that Halloween is a quiet night for the supernatural, where
they don't want to be lame.
Yes, it's considered in poor taste to like participate in Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
So they take the night off. And Buffy wants to have a night of like, just chilling out, but instead, she's getting forced into taking kids around the block from 4 to 6. So I'm sure,
Yeah, that's still plenty of time to like live your life after.
Yep. Maybe go to Bronze,
Mm-hmm.
meet up with an angel.
Yeah, plenty of time to do plenty of things.
But back to the soda machine.
Mm-hmm.
We are introduced to Larry.
Mm-hmm.
Larry, who is, I guess, a new school bully. Like before from Inca Mummy Girl, we had Mr. Muntz, but like now we've got, the jock school bully, and that's Larry, who is so full of toxic masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
and he and Xander start posturing, and Xander even says, "You're looking very like Cro-Magnon man," and so
Larry. Oh yeah, sorry. Ahead.
Larry says, "I heard some guy say she was fast." Who? Like, when? Just, he's literally saying that, like, out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I heard some guy.
Sorry. My cat Dobby is just going psychotic in the background. Like, you probably see him like darting around, but behind me, I just hear like, not the one in costume, mind you. I tried putting a mane on him and he was having none of it. But if you're hearing chaos at all, like being picked up, it is him. But sorry, back to Buffy.
Back to Buffy and Larry.
And Larry, yes. Yeah, so Xander does not take kindly to Larry talking shit about his friend, and quickly gets himself into trouble. And he realizes it like as he's doing it, because he grabs Larry, and I can't remember exactly what he said, but basically he's like, I know that I'm going to get in like, my ass kicked, basically.
Mm-hmm. And then Buffy swoops in and pulls his arm behind his back and just says, "Get gone."
And knocks down a soda that
Yeah.
that was Xander's that got stuck.
Yep. And she just takes it. Ooh, awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And Xander is very upset. He is not thankful that he is not in for a pounding.
And as he tells Buffy, a black eye heals, but cowardice has an unlimited shelf life. So he's saying, you're ruining my reputation, my manly reputation.
Mm-hmm.
That I just got saved from a bully.
Girl.
By a girl. And Willow kind of sees it and poo-poos it away, and Buffy kind of also is like, I'm sorry, but
Mm-hmm.
And then Willow starts being devious, and it starts off so innocent sounding. She's like, it's a shame that we can't read those diaries.
The Watcher diaries, yes.
Yep, the Watcher diaries. And Buffy's like, oh yeah, shame. And she's like, and they're in this location.
Yep.
We the click from like, oh, it's a shame, like just a casual thought, to a, let's do this.
Mm-hmm. Those who have watched Buffy before will recognize Willow's devious voice, because it's not the last time that we hear it, where she's just like, yeah. Yes, and so it's middle of the school day. Obviously, a librarian is going to be librarying about the library. So they sneak in to the library, and sure enough, Giles is there. And to distract him while Willow goes to get the books, Buffy says that Jenny Calendar said he's a total babe. And I was just like, that's mean, Buffy.
A hunk of burning something.
She's all into you, I swear. And he's like, oh, well, I'm Giles.
Yep. But I mean, like, she's trying so awkwardly to get him to pay attention to her. At one point, she says, "Look at me while I'm talking to you." And then when he starts to go away, she goes, "Miss Calendar thinks you're a babe." Like, so obviously trying to distract him that it is sad that Giles does not pick up on it.
I think the only reason had she had said anything other than Jenny Calendar thinks you're a babe or Miss Calendar thinks you're a babe, he would have, I think, picked up on it. But he was just so like, ooh, yes, go on. Did she use those words? Clean spectacles.
Yep. So then they get the diary, one of the Watchers' diaries, and I have so many comments on this diary. So they open up the page, and there is a woman, and she says, "What's her name?" And Buffy says, "It doesn't say." And right next to the picture of the woman, there's a little arrow, and it says, "Sarah Goodfriend." like, it doesn't say, except right there. And
you can only tell, though, if you read English.
Yes. And then it goes on forward to say, well, it's 1775, but that's actually the wrong date because it would have to be 1745 for Angel to have been 18 and a human because he turned in 1753, I think I said.
Well, he was born in 1727.
So
53. That would be about right.
Because he was 53. 26.
Yeah.
So they got that date wrong. And 1775 in the U.S. is the start of the Revolutionary War. So I think they got a couple of things a little confuzzled for that scene. And so they're looking at these things and they're thinking about, okay, well, now we need a costume. So they go to the new costume shop.
Spirit Halloween wasn't around yet.
But there was Party Town.
There was. And I think that it's called Ethan's, right? So this is how we first meet Ethan Rain. And he is basically moved into an empty shop just to open up this Halloween place. Spirit Halloween ripped them off, obviously. Although he has much more high quality costumes because Buffy goes in there and sees this gorgeous, for a Halloween costume, dress from about 75, thereabouts. Yeah. And that's the one she wants because she wants Angel to see her like that, to see her as this, fawning,
coughed and poised and well together.
I couldn't think of anything nice to say.
So she's looking for something, to make herself stand out. Willow is looking for something once again to hide. So she goes to the timeless classic, the Boo ghost costume. And there's actually a line here where Buffy's trying to convince Willow to be wild. And Willow says this line, which is kind of offensive. She said, wild on me equals spaz. And when this was shown in the UK, even at that time, they cut that line because the word spaz is considered a very offensive term for someone who has cerebral palsy or it's short for spastic, and which is actually what it's short for here too. But I don't think in the United States they quite made that connection or that link. They're like, oh, that's a terrible word. It's an awkward word to use for someone. But they don't consider it as offensive as they do over in the UK, who have made that link to that as a very ableistic, comment to make.
It's also not the last time we'll hear "you're such a spaz" because Snyder says that in Bad Candy.
Yep.
Yes.
But
Oh, go ahead.
We end up with Willow with her ghost costume, Xander with his little mini gun, and then there are, if you look around, a lot of ghost and goblin costumes. You know, there's not very many tutus and things being sold for children in Ethan's store. It's a lot of scary stuff. Except for this dress from 1775 that calls to Buffy. And he says, I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse. So we end up with Buffy in a dress that makes her weak, or makes her not the Slayer. And then other people in costumes that are going to cause amok. They're going to run amok. So,
yep, because little do they realize, and this seems to be like they went real late to get their costumes. This is like the week of or like the day before Halloween.
Yep.
When they go to get them. But this is also where the fact that Xander got that toy gun will, for many seasons, turn out to be a good thing, because he has this like weird military knowledge that is just like crammed into his brain from this, which is a little bizarre because it's not like Willow knows stuff about being a ghost. But so they take the kids out, they're hobgobbling around.
Well, before this happens, we see Spike using his technology. And he's rewinding and he's watching and he's rewinding again, and he's really focusing on her battle tactics. And again, we're seeing Spike use technology. Oh, so wonderful. And then Drusilla walks in with Miss Edith, her doll.
Yeah.
And she asks if Spike loves her insides. And he says, eyeballs to entrails, which is somehow very romantic.
Very romantic for a vampire.
And she tells him that she's had a vision and that Buffy is going to be weak tomorrow because someone new has come to town who is ignoring the take Halloween off rule and is going to bring, you know,
the big bad
drama to the town. And this is when we see Ethan Rain, and he is getting a stigmata, and he's praying to Janus, who is the Roman statue of a Roman god of transitions. It's beginnings and ends and openings and change. And this, according to some people, makes him also the god of chaos. Whereas chaos used to be opening and transition, he kind of went straight forward into like anarchy. And so,
oh, sorry, I was just gonna say this. We see that statue in 2 other episodes as well, Tabula Rasa and Dead Things.
Yep. I guess, I mean, they must have put some money into either making or buying that statue, and the props department is like, listen.
This thing's going to be in more episodes.
Yep.
I made this in pottery class.
And so we get to Halloween Day, right? We are in Halloween Day, and Cordelia's wearing her cat costume, and she sees Oz. And she goes and she has a little rant with Oz about how she doesn't care about Devon. You know, Devon doesn't respect her for the woman that she is. And then Oz interacts with Willow, but neither one of them realize it. Willow's wearing her ghost costume, and they have this kind of adorable little, oh, sorry, little shimmy. And this is, you know, Oz and Willow will kind of almost interact so much over the next several seasons, or next several episodes.
Yeah. I was like, they do more than interact. And
next several episodes. Yeah. And you are gonna see like the way that his face lights up when he looks at Willow, the audience is begging for it by the time it happens. They're like, come on, we've shipped this so hard.
Willow and Oz are definitely one of my favorite couples in the, like, specifically within the high school time frame of Buffy, but it's they're just so fun. And I don't know, maybe it's because they both have like red and orange hair that I like them so much together. Go have little ginger babies.
So then we get to Halloween night, and everyone's taking their little kitties around, and there's a terrible Mrs. Davis who is handing out toothbrushes.
Also, before that, so all the kids meet at the high school, and that's where get assigned to whoever's going to be walking them around. And Xander is standing there with his gun. And I was like, even with that tip now, that would not be allowed in schools ever. And I was like, that is one thing that you will never, ever see now in any sort of high school or like movie or adaptation. I'm not even sure you would see that on a college campus now. That's just too many school shootings.
And this came out before we really started having school shootings. I think this was before Columbine, wasn't it?
It might have been. It might have been just before Columbine.
Because I think that Earshot was the same year as Columbine.
Yeah, I think it happened in their third season technically. Versus I'm assuming you're looking that up now.
99.
Yeah.
So that
the year they graduate, yeah.
I do seem to remember that there was the episode with the possibility of a school shooting, and it was supposed to air like the week or two after it had happened. And so they cut it.
Yeah, they showed they showed that whole episode much later. It was out of chronological order.
Yeah. So all right. So then Ethan Rayne does his thing, and it's showtime, and everybody turns into their costumes.
And of course, everyone goes running to Buffy because that's what they do. Buffy doesn't even remember who she is. She has no idea. She doesn't know her name is Buffy. Xander at least knows his name's Xander. Like he responds to his name. He doesn't remember who Willow is or anything like that, but he's a little more easy to convince to go along with things. Whereas Buffy, you know, she follows the man with the musket, but she doesn't like this other woman who, Willow, when she takes off the Boo costume, is scantily clad underneath. Like it looked like had started to take Buffy's advice of it being come as you aren't night. And she has like her hair done in this like cool little hairstyle, which I think is just up, which is something you don't see from Willow.
I think they called the costume like sexy rocker girl or something.
Yeah, something like that. So she takes off her the Boo costume and we don't see it again. But she's just in that, but she has the ability to like of ghosts to walk through walls and things like that, which she knows.
She dies in order, like, so she starts suffocating. She can't breathe, and then she dies and comes out of the not wearing the Boo costume anymore. And so my question is, what if she hadn't been wearing that outfit? What if she hadn't been wearing anything under their Boo costume? Would she have been a naked ghost or a bra and panties ghost? Like,
she would have been a very sad ghost based on who Willow is. She would have just been like hiding behind bushes, giving orders. But Willow directs them back to Buffy's house, and they barricade themselves in. I think they pick up Cordelia along the way there, right? No, Cordelia shows up.
Screaming outside, and Soldier Xander runs outside, rescues Cordelia, brings her back inside, and Cordelia is still Cordelia. She is just wearing a cat costume. She makes reference to being attacked by Jojo the dog-faced boy, which was from Barnum's Museum of Mysteries. Like,
Yeah. She and she's very upset because she's not getting her deposit back on her costume.
Yep. And she specifically says, party town.
Yes. Which is important because that's what tips everyone off, because it's very strange that Cordelia
is not a giant kitty.
Yes. And Willow immediately starts telling her that she's not a cat and who she is. And she was like, I know, Willow, like, have you lost your damn mind? And meanwhile, Buffy has lost her mind and doesn't even believe it's her house. She keeps referring, she's like, she likes Xander a lot because he's the man with the musket.
Mm-hmm. And Sarah Michelle Gellar is so great in this episode. Just her eyes, her facial expression show her being so innocent and naive and frightened and not Buffy. She's able to transition herself into this other character that is not Buffy.
And I do actually like that they have her faint frequently, because back then the corsets they wore were so constricting, like women were prone to fainting because they couldn't breathe. They were crushing their organs. So like if she did get scared or excited for any reason, or even if she was just, you know, trying to breathe normally, you're prone to fainting. So if she gets scared, yes, she's probably going to drop like a rock. The one thing though that she says that is not at all accurate, which really bothered me, was she said, I bathe quite often. No, you wouldn't have been, lady. You would have been stinky, stinky, stinky like everybody else. You might have bathed more than peasants. You might not have been physically dirty, but that's because you weren't touching stuff that was dirty. And I think it's around this time that Angel shows up. And he still has access to the house, so he can just like saunter on in.
Yeah. Although, so Buffy is now living in a time 100 years before women had the right to vote. And she's, you know,
more than 100 years. More than 100 years.
Yep. Which Willow actually makes that comment, you know. She says, I much prefer having the right to vote, you know, when I'm 18.
Yeah.
So Angel shows up. Willow has already gone at this point to go find Giles. So no one is really there to explain what's going on except for Cordelia. And then I'm guessing this is a fake vampire has gone into the house, because he didn't need to be invited in. He just walked in.
Yep.
And so I'm guessing that has to have been not even a child turned vampire, because when you see the children are turned into demons,
still little.
They're still little. So this must have been, you know, a high schooler that had dressed up as a vampire who has walked into the house. And so my question is, if he gets staked, would he have been dusted, or would he have turned back into a human? Like, but luckily we don't have to find out, because Buffy sees Angel's vampire face and runs away.
Yeah. Screams, runs out into the streets.
Yep.
Where Spike is hunting her, unbeknownst to non-Buffy Buffy.
Yep. And he said, oh, I love that line. This is just neat.
Yeah, because he enlists those now demon children to like go do his bidding. Yep. He's nothing if not smart. He's like, go. But
sidelines, we have Willow talking with Giles. Yes. And Giles sees her walk through a wall, and he's also very concerned with her outfit.
And Willow, like, so Giles is going through a card catalog, which is also something that no one would have any idea of what it is now. And like they just go everywhere. And what you will understand if you've ever had to use one is it's going to take forever for him to jam all that stuff back in. Like, that is not a move you want to do, especially if you're the librarian. So he's just ruined his following day, basically. But he's scared, like, he thinks he's alone. All of a sudden, there's Willow the ghost, who is not dressed as Willow.
Uh-huh. And so she starts catching him up on what's happening, and he's very interested and confused. And then she says, no, we got our costumes. Like, he does the Cordelia connection. She says, we got our costumes from this new place, Ethan's. And you see a sort of suspicion
Yep.
on Giles' face, but he doesn't act on it yet. And so Willow and Giles go to Ethan's. And as soon as Giles sees Ethan Rayne, he sends Willow away and doesn't explain himself, doesn't just leave. And so she leaves, and we are introduced to Ripper.
Yep.
Not Giles, Ripper.
And in the cuts that they do back to Giles interrogating Ethan, it is like a very scary. He's very calm. He's just there with his Ethan has had the snot kicked out of him, literally, and Giles is just there with his little handkerchief, calmly cleaning himself. Yep. And in a very calm voice asking him more questions, and when he doesn't get a question or an answer that he wants, kick. And that this is a brand new side of Giles. It is frightening, very like, it's different if you see someone who's angry and they're yelling, that's one thing, but someone who is doing harm and is calm and composed is some of the scariest stuff you will ever see, because that means, like, this very calm librarian has that within him. You've messed with his Slayer.
Which is, this is kind of the theme, though, about the costumes that we put on. Mm-hmm. And Ethan says, this is a costume that you have put on. You are not the Watcher. That's not who you really are. And Giles says, yes, that is who I really am now. Like, I have become this person. But that's not to say he doesn't have this other side to him.
A past life, basically. His British side is very hardcore.
There are a lot of themes in this episode of costumes and personalities. And what are the masks that we put on in the everyday world, and who are we inside? And how does that change? How does that transition? Like Giannis, the statue represents.
I can't remember who it was, but there's a philosopher that said, we wear a different mask for everyone in our lives. Like, when you're at work, people see a different side of you than your friends do, than your family does. And even within your friend groups, like, people from high school are going to know, like, one version of you. People that you met in college are going to know, and so on and so forth. So it's not to say that any of these masks are inauthentic. It's just different versions of yourself, basically. Yeah. Certainly there are people who wear fake masks. That is not Giles's case. He has just grown as a person. Ethan has not. Yes. The kind shopkeeper that he was doing was a mask. That was a very dangerous one.
Yep. And so while Spike has now cornered Angel and Buffy, and the demons are holding Angel and Soldier Xander, and of course Willow can't interact with anybody because she's a ghost, and Cordelia is just Cordelia. And Spike is moving in for the kill of his third Slayer, but she's not really a Slayer at this point. And
she's terrified.
She's crying. And he's moving in, at the same time as Giles has finally beat the answer of destroy the statue out of Ethan. And so he smashes the statue, and Buffy becomes Buffy again.
And thankfully, she is aware of everything. Like, she knows exactly where she is and all of that.
And she just goes to town beating on Spike.
Yep. And all the children are children again, and they want nothing to do with any of that.
Yep.
I'm sure. Because if she remembers, I'm sure they remember and are all going to do the, we're going to forget thing. But, yeah, Spike just wasn't fast enough. He took his sweet time, and he really shouldn't have.
Yep. And so, I mean, we end up with happy ending. And all of a sudden, everybody realizes that they don't know where Willow is because Willow has gone back to her body all the way across town. And she comes to, and she starts to cover up with her ghost costume again. And then she's like, no, you know what? I've been running all over town in this outfit already. I'm going to continue to wear it. And she just kind of drops the costume, and she's walking, and you see Oz in his van, and she's crossing the street, and he sees her. And so the last time he saw her, she was an Eskimo. And the time he sees her, she's sexy rocker chick. And he says, who is that girl? As the song from the Treble Chargers is playing in the background, and the song is called How She Died. And so, how she died and how she lived. So.
Yeah, and if you look, Allison Hannigan has some like abs going on there. Like I was just like, dang girl.
Oh yeah.
Like she's not just thin, she's fit.
Yep. They had to work on frumping her.
I really like the idea of like Willow at night going home and like pumping iron. She at least had to be doing cardio because you got to figure Willow's like, gotta run from those vampires.
Yeah, I would see that. So we end this episode with Giles going back to the shop, and the shop is empty. It has closed down faster than a spirit Halloween. And there is a little sign from Ethan to Ripper saying, see you soon. And the look on Giles's face is murderous.
Yeah,
it is so ominous.
There was one other thing in this episode that I really wanted to touch upon. Angel asks Buffy, why did you wear this? Like, why did you pick this costume? And she explains, she wanted to look like the girls from back in, when he was alive and young. And he said, like, I didn't like those girls. Like, he's like, they weren't interesting. They were boring. They were only interested in like high society. It's like, I had nothing in common with them. And, it kind of also, they haven't touched upon it yet, but he was really a womanizer back in the day, a drunken womanizer. But it kind of explains that, like, he, in a way that, he was going through all these women because he wasn't actually interested in any of them. They were all the same to him.
There was no depth connection.
Yes, exactly. Whereas Buffy's very interesting. She's different. He doesn't want her to be anyone but who she is. That's who he likes.
Except who she is the chosen one. I mean, come on. If you're like, I could have any girl, or I could have the chosen one.
Well, I mean, that's not how Oz goes for Willow. I mean, he could have made a play for Buffy. And I think he winds up being the only, other than Giles, but like the only male friend her age ever, basically, who does not make some sort of play for her at some point. She's
And
always just your
it's because of Oz. Because Oz is seeking a very special connection
friend. With Willow.
with Willow. So that is our Halloween episode, my beautiful prom queen.
Oh, yes, yes. Oh, I'm so sad. Like, even when I couldn't find my matching, well, mine is a white unicorn with a sparkly horn on it, pajama. I couldn't even find that.
I need to do something about these ears to make them more
Stand-uppy.
yeah, they're a little flappy sad. But
They remind me a bit of Eeyore. Like when they're up.
I also have an Eeyore costume and a Tigger costume. So, for future Halloweens.
Yes. And where is, Olive is asleep. I won't bother him.
Okay.
But yes, so next week we will be doing Lie to Me and Dark Ages, where we will again visit some more Ripper time. But until then, happy Halloween, and thank you for going to the Hellmouth with us.
Yep. Thank you for just Jossin with us, guys.